I know. I
Say
know.
that people don't reach out. Just because they'll reach out doesn't meet your
You're still an
expectations.
heir. No one can take that away from you. But we have the opportunity to own that. And that can change absolutely everything for our lives.
Finding the balance between excellence and perfection, I think, is one lesson.
Welcome to Leadership Live, Season 5.
Hello, 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 everybody. I am so glad to see you back. And if you are new to Leadership Live, welcome. I am Dr. Renita, and I am a leadership strategist. That simply means that I love to work with growing and aspiring leaders to become more authentic in their leadership, to empower their fellowship, and at the end of the day, have a great impact on the world. I am also a wife and mother of 4. I always tell people I birthed 2 children and I own 2 children. I have 2 boys, and let me tell you, I've been feeding them for the majority of their life. They're mine. And so they're not just mine because I feed them. They're mine because my wonderful husband and I got married, and he was a single dad. And our journey to bringing our families together actually led me to write my very first book, Stepmom, Trials, Tribulations, and Triumphs. It has an edition 1 and 2 because life kept lifing. So I figured I would tell more about it. My children also inspired me to write the Perfect Children of All Ages book, While You Are Sleeping. It is my love letter to my kids because my favorite time with them a lot of times is when they're asleep. They're always sweet when they're sleeping. And I also wrote The Case of the Unlikely Leader, The Real Cost to Be a Boss. It's all about soft skills, making hard impact. And to all my people who are leaders out there in the world, look, even if other people try to tell you you're not a leader and you find yourself having people following you, baby, you're a leader. If you can follow yourself, you're also leading in life too. And that's a great place to be. I'm also the founder of The Refining Life, a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide you with experiences to have your mindset shifted so that you can lead a more positive and productive life. In addition to that, I coach. I am a speaker. I'm an MC. I'm a performer. I do the things and I have the fun, but that is only because I've been so blessed to have so many different opportunities to live so many different portions of life. And today, I am excited to bring back to you Leadership Live with a new guest. And I am so excited about this guest. I've had the opportunity to meet this person, to see their work, to admire this person, and now I get to have a in-depth conversation with them today, and I think that you will be pleased to meet him too. So, ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage is, I like to call him my friend, my brother, Reggie Rock Bythewood.
Hey, what's up? What's up? Dr.
Hello.
Renita, how you doing?
I am doing well. How are you doing today?
Doing great. I really love your mission statement with leadership and having an impact, and really looking to live in a space where you just leave people better, and I really respond to that, and already introduction is inspiring. So let's get into it.
All right. Well, for those people who must be living under a rock and may or may not know really who Reggie Rock Bythewood is and why I am so excited to have you today, I'll give you a moment just to introduce yourself, and I'll bring myself back in a minute.
All right, cool. Yeah. So I'm Reggie Rock Bythewood. I'm a writer, producer, director, son of Reggie and Carol, husband of Gina, father of Cassius and Toussaint. And you and I got connected because of the show I created, Swagger. And you were watching the show, and it was really great to just connect with you online. And, so blessed to continue our connection.
Yeah, let me tell you. And I know people say all kinds of crazy things, but I will say this. Swagger literally changed our lives. For us to have not been directly connected to the show, and for me to discover it while I was with my daughter. She was studying dance in California. And I was finding myself with a lot of time and finding myself on Twitter, which I was not on Twitter a lot, and I will forever call it Twitter. As Mama called it Twitter, I'm gonna call it Twitter. And came across a lot of clips. So big shout out to every person who ever has created an edit for Swagger. You got me. And actually was on there because I'm a huge All-American fan, and there's a large All-American fan base on there, and kept coming across this show. And I knew one of the faces. I knew Quavinjanae Wallace, and I saw her face. I was like, oh, she's doing something else. I said, let me catch this. And I said, one day, I said, I'm going to go and watch this show. I had time. And I watched that show for the very first time at Mays 206. And that was such a unique place to come into the show, but it immediately made me go back. I remember binging the entire first season that night. I just went back.
Right.
And as I was watching it and hearing the story, I said, wow, this would be really cool for my kid to watch. And we were starting to think about doing homeschooling. She was begging for it. She was begging to be homeschooled. And actually, Swagger was the reason that I said I would do it. I started thinking about it, was watching the show and said, ooh, this would be a really cool school curriculum. And I started getting sparks of ideas in my head, and I smartly yet scarily wrote it on Twitter and said, I am thinking about writing this curriculum. And you being who you are, immediately I received response from you. And just to say, tell me if you did it. Tell me if you do it. And that moment and that interaction changed our home. It changed the way it was part of that deciding factor, because I still hadn't decided we were going to homeschool for real. And when I had that piece, and I was so excited about that piece of what we could potentially do, it became you know what, we're going to do this. It was a driving force. I really wanted to teach her that. And we spent the entire school, we started in about October and spent the rest of the school year into the summer studying Swagger. And she actually is still working with it now, but she's doing a project that is it's not because, it ended at season 2. But she is doing some creation with some things based on Swagger. I'll share it with you offline. But it really shaped us. It really changed us. It changed conversation in our home. And that was a show where you were running the show. You were the show runner. And when I had this opportunity to talk to you today, it made me think about the idea of running the show, writing, producing, and directing the journey. And so not just the journey of a television show, but the journey of our lives. Even though your journey, writing, producing, and directing, is a part of what you do.
I don't know about you, but I love people. People are some of my favorite folks. But sometimes people get on my very last nerve. And that's why the reminder that people be peopling is available for you in t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts. Go to www.drrenitaweb.com. Click Use Your Words up in the right-hand corner and get yours today.
So just thinking about this whole idea of running the show, how did you get to this place in life?
Well, first off, Dr. Renita, if you don't mind, I do want to address what you said about, our interaction, and you're thinking about the curriculum. I think the other thing that really stands out during that time, and it was also around the time of the actor strike and writer strike, and artists could not really promote their shows. And, we had what we would come to call the Swagger fan base. I didn't name it, y'all named it that. And it was just, you do a show like Swagger, like on paper, you're like, okay, the main character is this young character named Jace, aspiring, basketball player. And, from a marketing standpoint, I think everybody would automatically say, okay, hit men, market to men. But that Swagger fan base, those black women, you black women that like stood up for the show in such a real way was really amazing. It was really inspiring. And so I'm gonna forever love all of y'all. That's why when you said, you asked if we could jump on, it was like, oh yeah, okay, let's do it. The way that Black woman stood up for Swagger was really amazing, and to that end, when you say how do I get to this place to be a showrunner, I would just say that's kind of like a constant throughout my life. I started my career. Well, I really started my career writing plays, but in terms of, let's say, the sort of on camera stuff, I started in a writer's room on A Different World. And
Which
you talk
is
about like sisters that were like mentors and comrades. Our head writer was this woman named Susan Fales, now Susan Fales Hill. But Susan, like at 29 years old, was the showrunner of A Different World. And on top of that, talking about like leadership, like what I learned from her, like she was so personable and really one of the best out of all of us. Really, really challenged me in a very constructive way, an uplifting way to be my best and to find my voice. Same with Gina Prince at the time, now Gina Prince Bythewood. But Susan was so amazing, and other great comrades and mentors in the show like Yvette Lee Bowser. We got to work there with Debbie Allen. And so I'm really blessed and fortunate to have come into the industry under the tutelage and support of just some amazing Black women. And so that has really been in many ways a constant for my career. But I started with A Different World, and been fortunate to have written features and TV shows, worked in New York Undercover. Gina and I created a show called Shots Fired, and Swagger I created, and just out here really following my passion, doing what I love. And since so much of what you are interested in is leadership, I'll also say Swagger, being a showrunner, Swagger was like a real in many ways, a reinvention of what I thought a showrunner was, because it was during the pandemic, when the pandemic first hit. I mean, technically, we still have a pandemic, but it was when, the pandemic just jumped off, and so much of my job really became about protecting all of the people that we employ to work in the show. And so it just really added another layer of leadership, and really helping us to create a protocol that would keep our cast and crew safe.
Yeah. You use the word protection. I think about a show like Swagger, and it has so many young people, and it's so many different situations that come up on the show. And so I know you wrote several episodes or several mazes, and you also, you had all these you brought in different writers, like male, female, all types of writers, but you all tell all of these stories that are so well interwoven, but it would stretch, I would think. I have a young actor in my house, and I think about her, getting to tell stories like that. When you were creating this world, and, I think about very early on where Jace is stopped by the police and accused of things. And then I think about, 107, where they were in the diner. I'm trying not to give away too much because some people haven't seen the show yet. If you haven't, it is still on Apple TV Plus. Everybody go watch right now. Seasons 1 and 2. Make it happen. And then like 205. And you put all of these young people in these situations, and their adult counterparts, the parents and the coaches. When you're telling these stories and you're helping direct them, and even in the writing, how do you protect their mental, but still help them move into the world and take those journeys?
Well, I think so much of it is really being very clear on what it is you want to say and what is the mission for the show, right? So that's a big part of the leadership, is people understanding the vision and hopefully inspiring them to buy in. And when they buy in, they contribute, they collaborate, they bring their A game, and so ultimately, with Swagger, like, yes, on the surface, it's a show about a young man aspiring to become a professional basketball player, but beneath the surface, really about growing up in America, right?
Right.
It's really like looking at all these different aspects and how do you navigate your way to becoming an adult. Um, and just for the audience that might not know, and I really appreciate, you saying mazes, right? Because like a big part of the vision, part of the leadership is we didn't say episodes when we referred to our show. We called it mazes. And if somebody in the writer's room or whatever would say episode, they had to put $1 in our jar. And the whole idea is because we really wanted to look at it as like this cohesive um, narrative that would challenge us to say, like, when you have a dream, there's roadblocks, there's walls, there's ways around it, there's ways out, but really looking at it as a narrative that was really about the navigation of people aspiring to reach their dreams and growing up with all the sort of trauma and joy that they would face along the way. So that's how we got to Mazes. And I think that we just had like a really great cast. Yes, a cast with a lot of young people, and so much of it was letting everybody know that they were seen. And I honestly, they really were family. I love all of them, and really rooting for the best in all of them. Whether it's folks in the writers' room, my directing staff, the crew, the cast. So it's really amazing to be able to work from an authentic place where you have a clear vision, you need everyone to buy in, and you're also rooting for everybody to be their best.
That idea of vision is so incredible, and I think it's something that we don't hone enough or lock in enough as we're thinking about leadership, and the idea of knowing where you want it to go and what you want it to be as a leader. But then also hearing you say that you allow people to come in and collaborate and contribute and have their words heard, their thoughts heard. That is something that is so powerful. I think as a person who's been both a leader and a follower, I've been a school principal. Like, that was huge. That was a huge piece of leadership. I was a school principal who opened a school, and we started from nothing. And I mean, it was attached to two other schools, but we were opening the elementary school, and like there were no walls for a long time, and no curriculum, and having the opportunity to bring in people, and that idea of, this is what I see for this school, but I need you. I need to hear your thoughts. You are an elementary teacher. I had never even worked in an elementary school. I worked in middle and high school. And to be able to bring in all these different voices, I say we created magic. And for 5 years, it was a magical place.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that it was because I knew it wasn't about me. It's about we.
Right.
And hearing you bring that same idea to such a fabulous show that was so deep, for lack of a better word. But also after, we were in those spaces on Twitter and hearing once the cast could talk, or even during those times where, people who weren't unionized had the opportunity to start speaking with us, but to hear them, it all came back to you. No matter what stories they were telling, it always came back to you and your leadership.
To the vision, sister. You know what I'm saying? Because, just as you said, like, when we can authentically live in a space where we say it's not about me, like a cause bigger than itself, and like to live in that space, right, where you really are saying my leadership and in my craft, my art, and what I'm putting out in the world is honestly like the best way for me to serve. Serve God, serve my people, walk with the ancestors. Like to really like live in that space and to invite other people to live in that space is a really great way to play. I mean, we work hard, but it's play as well. We want to enjoy it, and we had a lot of fun um, in that on that show. It was very tough production, but but I do appreciate what you're saying, but I give it up to the creator on that, and with all my work, it's so hard in what we do, leader. Being in it's so hard in all so various forms of work and service. There are so many challenges that we face, and so sometimes like you need that thing, that battery pack, that that element where you don't always have to have it all on you. And
Mm-mm.
for me, while it is a very noble thing to say, maybe the cause bigger than self, it's also like an advantage because I don't feel like if I'm in a room with 10 people that want to be like, why should this dude get a shot, whether they look like me or not? I'm already knowing it's 10 of y'all. Like, man, y'all outnumbered. Because number one, I'm coming in with God. I'm coming in with my ancestors. I'm coming in with my people. It's like what, So I don't have to feel like it's just on me.
Hello, my loves. I have a new book coming out. Take the time and go ahead and pre-order yours. It's called Village Minded, and it's going to be a game changer. Don't miss out. Order yours today.
Yeah. This idea of village. I exposed myself some episodes ago that I am writing a new book called Village Minded.
Mm,
And
I
hearing
like
you
that.
talk about
Village. That's hot. I like it.
yeah.
Hmm.
But it is this idea of the village, and what I love to hear coming from you is that your village is not just physical. Your village is always with you. It is the ancestors, it's the creator. It's, your whole crew comes with you. So even if you look like you're in a space by yourself, you're never alone.
And sometimes I have to be reminded of that, right? Sometimes you're like, whoa, wait, why is it feeling off? All right, man, tap in, you know? And that's why journaling is really good. That
Mm.
I like making, notes and I like to put things down on paper and claim it in that way. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've been really blessed to have, good people in my life. I was, when I was working on New York Undercover, so, so many years ago, and I don't know, some people will have never heard of that show and some people will, be
It's back on streaming
familiar.
services
It
now.
is,
My husband
it's out
just
there.
watched it the other day.
So hold me finding it, I was working on New York Undercover. It's like, I think there was 4 writers at that time, 4 of us on staff. And we all kind of like turned in our scripts at the same time. And I thought like, wow, I thought my script is like really good. And, the showrunner, got the script and he was like, okay, this person's script is going to go first. This one's second, this one's third, Reggie's will be fourth. I was like, all right, well, it's all good. Keep it moving. Then we had to write a second script. And the second scripts came in. They said, all right, Reggie's is not going to be fourth. So-and-so's is going to be fourth, fifth, sixth. So, like, both, my scripts just got shoved to the back. And I was feeling some kind of way about it, Dr. Renita. And I was like, I love what I'm doing here, but they're not seeing me. They're not hearing me. Like, I'm just going to break out. And I was, on my way to quit.
Mm.
And my grandfather, who's no longer here, he wrote me this long letter, and it was really just leaning into why we don't quit, and
Oh,
and to trust, trust that, I'll say to my own sort of paraphrase, and but trust that the universe and God has your back.
right.
And so I was like, all right, I put the exit strategy on pause, and they ran out of script, so we had to come to my script. And when they got to my script at the table read, the cast gave it a standing ovation. And it
Oh,
was
wow.
like, wow. And then, and it went well. And then in many ways, I just really became like a huge voice of the show. Like everything had changed. Everything had changed. And it was almost like hardly any decision creatively had went on without me. I stayed for the first 3 seasons and then I left, but so yeah, so much of it is fortitude, but keeping your eyes on the prize. You'll understand that there's going to be obstacles thrown in your way, and then if we're so blessed, we'll have people in our lives like my grandfather.
Absolutely. And sometimes you need that voice to
Yeah,
just say,
that
hold
older
on.
voice too. Sometimes that older voice, that's
Oh, yeah.
Join us next week for part 2 of this awesome conversation.